All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little San Francisco Giant video. Bob Nightingale with a report. Man, it's playoffs or that's it for Farhan Ziadi. We'll discuss it coming up next. First, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go get some brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And this video is also brought to you by our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Giants. The Giants, 47-50, 9 games back in the National League West, 3 games back in the wild card. Are they a buyer or are they a seller? And how is the trade deadline going to look for the Giants is the question. And, that really is the question. If you look at the Giants, are they, do they buy or do they sell? They haven't been over 500 since late May. They've only been 2 games over 500 at their high point this year. And if you look at them as a team, they've thrown the most relief innings of any team in all of Major League Baseball. The Giants have recorded only less than 14 outs per game from their starting pitchers this year. That's the lowest total in all of MLB. Blake Snell has only thrown 35 innings this year. Bob Nightingale is reporting that if the Giants decide they're going to sell, that teams will definitely pursue Camilo Doval in a trade. He's a 27-year-old closer who was an all-star just a year ago. A lot of people speculating maybe Houston might go after him to try to pair him with Josh Hader. Doval's got a 4.38 ERA this year. He's got 3 more years of team control and is a very, very valuable commodity because of that. Now, the Giants have had only 1 winning season in the last 5 years. This is year 7 for Farhan Ziadi. He will have made the playoffs in 2021, and that's it in 7 seasons. If they don't make the playoffs this year. And Bob Nightingale of the USA Today says, according to rival executives around Major League Baseball, they believe that Farhan Ziadi is among the executives who need to make the playoffs to keep their jobs. So Nightingale also listed A.J. Preller of the Padres, Ross Atkins of Toronto, who are also in a similar position. So maybe the Giants and the Blue Jays can get together on a deal because both GMs are in the same spot. It's interesting. I mean, if you're the Giants, do you buy? Well, you can't buy by trading away prospects. You just can't. Not top tier prospects. If they're prospects that you don't think that highly of, that's one thing. But you can't be a true buyer. If it came down to it, I think I'd rather see them sell and try to build up for 2025. You've got Blake Snell, you've got Robbie Ray, you've got Alex Cobb. You've got Camilo Doval, you've got, Wilmer Flores and Mike Yastrzemski. And, you've got some guys that may have some value to a contending team down the stretch. So if I'm the Giants, I think that's pretty interesting that they could be out if they don't go to the playoffs. But this year, it's like they spent a ton of money. Outside of the Dodgers, nobody spent more money. They spent the second most on free agents in the offseason, trailing only the Dodgers. So because of that, there were high expectations. And then Jung-Hoo Lee was lost for the season with the torn labrum. That was very, very, very costly. Jorge Soler got off to a very slow start. Blake Snell, had a 6.31 ERA and only has made 8 starts coming. Here we are in the middle of July. So the Giants are not out of the race. And the July 30th trade deadline is approaching. And there are different, thoughts on what they ought to do. Personally, I think they ought to try to sell some of their pitching because I think the pitching is at such a premium that they might be able to get something significant for Camilo Doval. And Doval, has shown flaws this year. And if you could get something incredible for Doval, you may want to consider it. To me, if you're a buyer, you can't be a buyer who buys guys who are free agents at the end of the year. It just makes no sense. I mean, they did that a couple of years ago. They traded Caleb Killian and Alexander Canario to the Cubbies for Chris Bryant, and then Chris Bryant was a free agent at the end of the year, and he walked. And so the Cubs still have Killian and Canario. Canario is now up at the major league level, and the Giants didn't sign Chris Bryant. Now they made a smart move not to sign Chris Bryant, because Chris Bryant has been absolutely one of the worst free agent signings of the last decade or so by Colorado. But the Giants also traded two pretty good prospects to get him and then watched him walk away. So they can't do that this year. They can't because they may not make the playoffs. They have to target guys who have club control. Three guys that I think would make a lot of sense. One is Jazz Chisholm for the Marlins, 2 years of club control left. He's versatile. He can play a lot of spots, gives you some speed and defense. The second is Randy Arozarena from Tampa Bay, who's been really good in the playoffs for them in the past. And he's got 2 years of club control. The guy who I think makes the most sense, I watched the Futures game last night, and I watched Bryce Eldridge I taped it in the afternoon and watched it last night. And Eldridge is 6'8", and he's got tons of power. But, I mean, Eldridge is in the Cal League, and he's 6'8", and he's not hitting for a huge average in the Cal League. He still has to show that he can conquer Double-A. Then he has to show that he can conquer Triple-A. And then he's got to make a breakthrough at the major league level and show that he can hit major league pitching. He is a ways away. I would say Eldridge ETA is like 2027, maybe 2026, but he's not a year away. He's more than a year away. So that means the Giants have a hole at first base a little bit. And the guy who I think makes tons of sense is the former Cal Bear, the current White Sox, Andrew Vaughn. First base has been a weak spot for the Giants this year. They've split time there with Wilmer Flores and Lamont Wade, and those two have combined for 7 home runs and 44 RBIs. That's not the kind of production that you would expect from first base. 7 home runs and 44 RBIs. But there are options at first base on the trade market, and Andrew Vaughn is one of them. And he was born in Santa Rosa. He went to Cal for college. He was the 3rd pick overall in the 2019 draft. And there's no question he's a damn good player, but he could use a change of scenery. He hit 53 home runs with 204 RBIs and a 256 batting average over his first 3 seasons in the big leagues. And now he's 26. He's currently hitting 237 with a 293 on base and a 391 slug with 11 home runs and 43 RBIs. And the White Sox in the beginning of a major rebuilding effort. And so trading Vaughn is now a serious option. He's got 2 more seasons of team control. There's no question he would take a few prospects, but he would not empty the Giants' entire farm system. And the Giants would be hoping that, some kind of a homecoming for Andrew Vaughn would ignite his bat and maybe help them go on a little bit of a playoff run, and also giving them a first baseman for the foreseeable future until Eldridge is ready. One is Farhan's kind of interesting. He's been saying, hey, you know what? Our teams, it is what it is. We're not looking to add. But I think he's just downplaying it. He's trying to downplay the desperation. I think everybody in the industry knows that the Giants spent a ton of money, and that they either are going to have to sell and admit that they blew it. And that would be probably maybe the death knell for Farhan's tenure here in San Francisco, or they have to, double down and keep buying, and keep adding to their mix. And I think if it's cost effective, they're going to choose that option, to continue to buy. I do think Farhan has to make the playoffs or he's done. I was told at the beginning of the year when I asked about, hey, Farhan got a deal that now coincides with Melvin's deal. And I said, really? The Giants are going to give Farhan Ziadi 3 more years after what he's, produced in the first 6 years? Or first 7 years? It seems like not a wise decision to give him a 3-year extension. I was told by one of the Giant people that extension was really more about the optics for potential free agents to show a unified front, and that if the Giants failed to make the playoffs this year, that Farhan would be the first to go in front of Melvin, that Melvin would stay and that Farhan would get fired. That a little bit surprised me because I'm like, wait, so you're going to extend a guy and give him a 3-year deal, and then if you don't make the playoffs in his first year of that 3-year extension, now you're going to fire him? But it sounds like that is what I heard in March and April of this year. And now I'm hearing it from Bob Nightingale that if the Giants don't make the playoffs, that Farhan could be out as the general manager. So it does make you think that they are not going to sit on their hands at the deadline. They're not going to do nothing. They're not going to get involved in some dramatic sell unless they can get a great player here or there. But I think you may see them do a cost, and a cost efficient, a low cost, significant addition. A bat that you control contractually for 2 years, and a guy like Andrew Vaughn would be perfect. Absolutely perfect. But there's the report. Bob Nightingale says if the Giants don't make the playoffs, Farhan's fired at the end of the year. What does that mean for the trade deadline? I think it's more likely that it means that he'll be active instead of inactive. But I don't expect a sell of prospects, and I don't expect them to trade prospects in a buying situation. Lots of prospects. I think they're going to hoard their prospects. I don't think that they're going to get involved in a big sell-off of Snell and others, but you may see one guy like that moved. But I do think there's a very good chance that they will trade some minor league players for a contract controlled bat that plays in the infield or outfield. Somebody that will be with them, not just in 2024, but somebody who'll be with them in 2025 as well, and preferably 2026. And I think if they can find that kind of piece, whether it be a Rosarena or Chisholm or Andrew Vaughn, I think that is what Farhan's going to do at the deadline. But very interesting, according to Bob Nightingale, they don't make the playoffs. Farhan Ziadi out as the general manager of the Giants. All right, give me your thoughts on Bob Nightingale's report. Love to hear your thoughts one way or another. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.